Hey, I'm Gary, and welcome to another segment of Interviews with Experts. Today I'm very happy to have with me Dr. Jess, who is a Toronto-based sexologist and relationship expert. And Jessica, what I wanted to ask you today, we tweeted that we were going to be meeting with you, and we had an important question that I think has broad appeal. And it was a woman who wrote in and said that she'd been married for 20 years in a loving relationship. Her husband loves her. She feels she loves him. They're in their 40s, but the passion has just basically disappeared. And that's all the information I have, but she wanted to know, how does she broach the subject with her husband? And maybe you can take it from there, but what do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question, and it's also a really common one.
Right.
So I see a ton of clients who come in a very similar scenario. So the first thing is, you have to talk about it, right? If it's this frightening elephant in the room, it's only going to get worse. So she should find kind of a safe, non-threatening time to talk to him. So not when they're about to jump into bed, not when they're kissing, obviously not when there are other people around. Sit down, have dinner, and start with the positive, right? Because she began with the fact that she loves him very much and she feels very loved. So they need to start with what is working and then build from there. So oftentimes when people stop having sex, the fallout of that is that they stop being affectionate altogether. Because I'm afraid if I touch you, you might want sex, right? It may lead to sex. So they need to start, I usually start clients with a no sex rule. So for the first couple weeks, perhaps longer, while we're working on this, they work on affection, they work on intimacy, they work on touch, they work on offering compliments and rebuilding that connection before they can even get to the part that's sexual.
So that's very interesting. You make the comment about compliments. It sounds like you're laying the groundwork for rebuilding attraction first, in fact. Is that true? I mean,
absolutely. Now, I don't know with this couple if the attraction is still there, but with many of the couples I work with, the attraction is there. They just no longer know how to express it because they've gotten out of the habit. And it's really common when you have children, when you have very busy jobs, when you're caring for elderly parents. It's practical things that get in the way of your hot sex life, right? So there's nothing wrong with you. There's not a person on this earth who won't have sexual challenges and struggles at some point in their life. Mm-hmm. We all can use help, and that would be my second piece of advice, that they seek professional help to kind of help guide them through the conversation. So seeing somebody like me, seeing a marriage and family therapist, that can be really helpful in a case like this.
Well, I would imagine that it would also almost be necessary because, gosh, I mean, as a man, I mean, there are all sorts of minds in this minefield of bringing all this together, and as a man he may feel less masculine because he's not having sex with his wife, or it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that could be happening, really.
Right, and you really need to get a full picture, and a professional can kind of help you walk through that. And really, it is hard to talk to your partner about any of your vulnerabilities, but there's nothing as sensitive and as personable as sex. And like you said, it kind of gets to the core of what it means to be a man or to be a woman, right? Our sense of gender, masculinity, femininity is really tied to our sexual selves.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you're talking, I'm picturing myself in that position. And I think the one thing that I would appreciate if I was maybe a vulnerable man and not knowing where to begin again, because it's been 8 years or 10 years or whatever, I would love it if she painted a little picture for me. Just, on that little conversation, say, what I'd love is us to get back to here. Do you remember when we were here when we were 28 or whatever? And then just say, once you have buy-in, say, let's talk about that. Let's figure that one out.
Well, that's a really good point, because many counselors are going to ask them to go there and describe what their peak experiences were. Kind of go back to, well, what attracted you to one another in the beginning? And it's likely that that attraction really is still there. You just have to find a way to draw it out. And sometimes the idea of passion is something that we associate with being lost with time. But some of the things that we believe are really related to passion in the beginning are really more about nerves and anxiety, right? And once that anxiety subsides, you become more comfortable, part of that resistance is gone. And unfortunately, you need to find a way, when you've got a really great, solid relationship, to build up some of that anxiety and resistance. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, where you're doing really well on the relationship path, but some of that passion seems to have subsided, when in fact it's just your nerves have calmed down, and it's actually a really good thing.
Yeah, good. Well, I think that there's a lot of folks out there who can benefit from that advice. And how can our viewers get a hold of you to get more information about your services?
Well, you can definitely find me through Eligible Magazine, but you can also find me at www.sexwithdrjess.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Jess.
Thanks, Gary.
And thank you for watching today, and we'll see you again on another segment of Interviews with Experts.